From the cold state being home to less than 1.3 people per square mile, to how Alaskans might benefit from staying put, here's why people are leaving Alaska. Wouldn't you say it's ironic that the largest U.S. state is the least populated one too? To really put this into perspective, with a total area of 665,384 square miles, Alaska has a greater total area than the next three largest states: Texas, California, and Montana combined. Yet, as of 2023, the population was only 733,406. Anchorage, the state capital, is home to a significant portion of the total population, with 280,703 residents. That's 1.3 persons per square mile, a whole lot less, wouldn't you say, compared to the 285.21 persons per square mile over in California. Now, since we're talking numbers anyway, the first U.S. census in Alaska was carried out in 1870 and showed a total population of 82,400 people, which, believe it or not, was considered to have been gravely exaggerated. Of course, there's been a leap from 1870 to 2023, but that has more to do with the overall rise in the global population than anything else. Alaska's low population isn't just because of a lack of interest either. In fact, there have been several governmental schemes and development projects trying to get people to move to the northernmost territory. These schemes have helped just enough to boost tourism in Alaska. But after a fun-filled couple of days skiing and watching the northern lights, everyone packs up and heads back home out of Alaska. So, with all that being said, the biggest question is, what's wrong with Alaska? It's easy to see why people aren't moving to the state. It's really, really cold. The highest recorded temperature in the state's history was 38 degrees Celsius at Fort Yukon in 1915. The lowest, on the other hand, was negative 62 degrees Celsius, recorded at Prospect Creek in 1971. Overall, Alaska faces extremely cold winters and short summers. People living in Anchorage, the most tropical city in Alaska, also have to plow the snow off their driveways every winter. All that, however, is a given. Everyone knows Alaska's a cold place to live, and maybe that's why people aren't U-hauling there. Still, the people who were already there know it's cold. So a better question would be, why are people moving out now? What changed? For one, they realized there was a better life to live outside of the state. You could also say they saw the light, and that's not just a metaphor. People in Alaska have to struggle with near-to-complete darkness, sometimes all year round in some parts of the northern state. People living in the South Central see a total of maybe 5 hours of sunlight every day, and that's pretty much it. Imagine being submerged in darkness for almost 19 hours every single day. Conversely, some people are actually moving away because of the sunlight. This seems almost made up, doesn't it? Here's the thing, though. Typically, you'd associate seasonal depression with the wintertime. Over in Alaska, where it's wintertime all year round, the sunlight could mess up your circadian rhythm, too. Many people have reported feeling anxious, with the sun being out all day in the summer, and finding it difficult to sleep and otherwise function. That's the thing, when you've lived in Alaska for a long time, your cycle starts getting messed up. You can't tell your days apart from your nights, and that ends up taking a toll on your mental health. A darn good reason to move if you ask anyone. Another equally good reason would be the high property taxes. The local government has a reason for it, though. There's no income tax or sales tax in the state, which might sound like a good enough reason to move there. But before you pack your stuff, you might want to hear about their absurdly high property taxes. You know you have a problem when people from California are complaining about Alaska's property taxes. The local government has more or less lifted all other taxes, but it has unfairly taxed property owners an absurd amount. It's doing more harm than good, because now people don't see it as a fair trade to buy property in a state that's already too cold to live in. Plus, the structural integrity of your property is already compromised too, with all the earthquakes in the area. Yes, that leads us to another reason why people are packing up and ready to move: natural disasters. 2018 was a hard year for Alaskans because of the 7.1 magnitude earthquake that hit Anchorage and injured 117 people. Thankfully, there were no fatalities, but the shock of the earthquake and how it impacted several properties was enough for lifelong Alaskans to decide on finally moving out. There aren't a lot of opportunities in the state either, especially if you're someone who yearns for a life of glitz and glamour. In fact, many people in modern day prefer to move out of the cold to warmer states, seeking more glamorous opportunities. Alaska has an entertainment industry, but it's not even a fraction of what you could find elsewhere, and we mean literally anywhere else in the United States. Okay, so it's clear that there are several reasons why people are moving out. But did you know that Alaska actually had a 0.02% population increase from 2022 to 2023? Obviously, the numbers might not sound significant enough, especially compared to other numbers in New York or California. But hey, it's good enough for Alaska. That being said, let's talk about why people actually want to move to Alaska too. So far, we've talked about how lifelong Alaskans are moving out because they want a change in scenery, and that's fair. However, several people from other US states are actually moving up north for the exact same reason. Tourists who visited the cold state for one reason or another have found themselves longing to go back. Alaska might be cold and quiet, but that's exactly the sort of life some people are striving for. Do you want peace and serenity? Alaska's got you covered. In this day and age, where we've all come to respect the grind, some people have actually taken a step back and reevaluated their lives. Why do we respect the grind? Mostly because that's what we should do, right? Should we actually trade our sanity for overtime? Not really, and if you think the same, then you might want to move up to Alaska too. It helps that there's no income tax either. That's why you should consider moving to Alaska. And as we're wrapping up this video, it'd only make sense to talk about what the future holds for the cold state. Alaska holds a central role in the US's Arctic strategy. The fact that parts of Alaska are wholly submerged in snow isn't a secret, and the US knew that when they bought Alaska from the Russian Empire in 1867 for about $7.2 million. That's $125 million in today's day and age, by the way. A real steal. So why did the United States buy the cold state? Fur, fisheries, and gold. Take your pick. Alaska might not seem like much, but the state actually has a lot of potential. By that, we mean the potential to make the US a whole lot richer. In fact, besides the natural treasures hidden underneath the snow, Alaska helps the US hold strategic importance in the Pacific and might just help it rule the Pacific side completely. That's a history lesson. But if we're talking about the present day, then the US is finally ready to make use of Alaska's hidden treasures. They've started several projects that will boost Alaska's economy, create more jobs for the locals, and altogether make the state a whole lot more livable. Again, the fact that Alaska has no income tax becomes a really, really strong reason to favor a move to the cold state. For now, though, the Department of Labor is trying to get more people to move to Alaska. Reports show that the cold state is much more dependent on migration than the lower 48. That's obviously because of the low population compared to the number of jobs that are available in the state. With the US government aiming to create more jobs in Alaska, it looks like the problem might just grow. Or not. Actually, you see, reports show that the US had an unemployment rate of 3.5% in 2023. In numbers, that'd be about 11,899,879 people. A lot more evident now, isn't it? Anyway, people in the United States are on a constant job hunt, and Alaska is on a people hunt. Put two and two together, and it looks like more people would favor moving to Alaska in the future because they need steady employment. That, plus several of the other reasons we've talked about today, and who knows, maybe Alaska will see a population boom in the next couple of years. Anyway, from how Alaskans might benefit from staying put, to the cold state being home to less than 1.3 people per square mile, that was why people are leaving Alaska.